Good morning, students. We are learning water resource engineering and hydrology. We are discussing on drought management and water harvesting. Well, in today's lecture, we will discuss about drought management. So, starting with that, what is drought? Well, generally, drought is considered by many people to be strictly natural or physical event. While in reality, drought has both the physical and social components, and it is essential that water managers and decision makers understand that properly. Well, it is critical that people inhabiting each geographic region to understand their exposure to make the drought hazard. For an example, we can say the probability of drought occurrence at a various severity levels. Okay. However, the risk that is associated with the drought for any region, those are products of both the region's exposure to the event and that vulnerability of its society to a drought at some particular point of time. If we talk about vulnerability, unlike the natural event, that such vulnerability uh, determined by various social factors such as we can say the population changes, population shifts that we consider as a migration rate, then environmental awareness, level of technology, wisdom and applicability of government policies, land management practices, and the social behaviors. So these all are the factors that change over the time, and thus that vulnerability is likely to increase or decrease in response to these changes. While subsequent droughts in the same region will have different effects, even if they are identical in intensity, its duration, and special characteristics, because the societal characteristics will have been changed. Well, if we talk about the management alternatives during the drought, many management alternatives are available to prepare for and respond to the drought, and those alternatives basically divided into two broad categories, that demand management and the supply augmentation. Well, if we talk about the demand management, we are having the public information and education campaigns, then emergency conservation programs, water resource restriction to the non-essential uses of water, then by prohibiting the some selected commercial uses, then providing drought emergency pricing, water rational programs, augmentations, then also by providing improvements in the water systems, we can deal with the drought. With that also we can facilitate people by giving emergency sources of supply such as wells, then some interconnection emergency water sources, etc. Okay. Also by doing management of available water resources, then also by searching some new supplies of water, that in some places there may be possibility of high groundwater level. So by searching those places we can deal, or we can alternate this. By searching that we can deal with the drought. As a summarized, we can or should be placed drought mitigation and preparedness, as well as the prediction and early warning capabilities, if the society is to reduce the economic and environmental damages that is associated with the drought. Well, this will require interdisciplinary cooperation and collaboration efforts with the policymakers at all the levels. So if policy will be made properly, and if it will be executed properly, then we can deal with this drought very efficiently. Okay. So to provide the protection towards the drought, there are few strategies we can use, and those strategies for the drought protection and drought mitigations could be: first, that can be dams. Okay. There are many dams and their associated reservoirs supply the additional water in the times of drought. Okay, so these dams are very useful. That could be part of our strategies, that from the reservoir we can provide the water supply. The next could be the cloud seeding. While cloud seeding is an artificial technique, okay, that may help us to fight against the drought. The third, that is the desalination of seawater for the irrigation or the consumption purpose. The fourth, that is the drought monitoring. While continuous observation of rainfall levels and the comparison with the current usage level can help to prevent man-made drought. Well, for instance, we can say analysis of water usage in Yemen has revealed that their water table is put at a grave risk by overuse of fertilize their crop. Okay, so by carefully monitoring of moisture level can also help to predict the increased risk of drought, or we can say the wildfires. So continuous observation or drought monitoring is also an important, which can help us in the relieving of from the drought. Well, fifth one, that is the crop rotational. Well, land use carefully planned, the crop rotational can help us to minimizing the erosion, as well as allow farmers to plant less water that dependent crops in a dry years. Then also outdoor water use restriction that can also help, that regulating the use of sprinklers or hoses or buckets on the outdoor plants, or filling the pools, and water intensive home maintenance tasks. Okay, so this overuse should be restricted. Then rainwater harvesting, that is the best option, that to collect and store of rainwater from the roof and other suitable catchments. And the last, that is the recycled water. While recycled water form a wastewater that has been treated or been purified for the reuse. So these are the drought protection and relief strategies that we can use. The next topic, that is the water conservation and augmentation. Well, this need of water conservation is, well, there are various reasons that push us to know the need of conservation of water, and the main areas which are forcing us to go for the conservation, and that is the first area, that is the variation in the rainfall. There is a large variation in the rainfall from season to season, time to time, and place to place. Now the annual average rainfall in the northeast is almost 100 times of that annual average rain, and the western part of the India. Well, in Meghalaya, there is a place where annual average rainfall sometimes exceed 11,000 millimeter, while the western side, if we consider Rajasthan, well, okay, there is a place which is having around 100 mm or sometimes less than 100 mm average rainfall. Okay, so every year rainfall will not be the same and uniform in all the regions. Sometimes it may be higher, sometimes it may be late. Okay, so there are some regions where every third year there is a low rainfall. Well, the rainfall is non-uniform during its season. Okay, now even in a particular rainy season, rainfall will vary during each day. That will lead us to understand the need of this water conservation. So if after the 3 year, if rainfall not occurred, then at that moment that saved water or conserved water may be taken as a reuse of that water. Well, if we talk about the second segment, that is the area of water storage, well, that also affect this water conservation and its augmentation. Well, there are some location in our country where there is a minimum rainfall, and the region are called as arid regions, where the rainfall is very minimum. That minimum, that means less than 500 millimeter. Okay. Now in these areas, even during the good rainy year, the rainfall is not sufficient that to grow that particular area, and also that is not sufficient to grow that particular crops. Okay, so this aridity is a permanent feature of these areas. Well, in such heavy areas, the conserved water may be a boon, as it can help in the irrigation purpose, or also it may help for the domestic purpose. So now if we talk about the uncertainty of precipitation, natural factors are playing very important role for the rainfall and form of precipitation. While this uncertainty is certain in the nature, there are areas in India where the good crop is expected, but because of the scarcity of rainfall, the failure of the crop can occur. So these are known as the drought prone areas, wherein there are some region also where a year without a flood, that is very rare. Okay, so these are also facing the problems of failure of crops, but the season is opposite in the nature. So now if we discuss about the measures for the water conservation, well, we can measure this water conservation in three different categories. The first, that is the domestic conservation. Okay, well, for the domestic conservation, what we can do that, verify your home, that is leak free or not. Okay, repair dripping taps by replacing washers, avoiding flushing the toilet unnecessarily. We can turn off water while brushing the teeth. Water saving use, keep overflow valve in the overhead tank, use wastewater in the flush, then operate automatic washing machine when it is fully loaded. Also, while going outdoors, turn off the main valve for the water so that it can save some amount of water. With that, also minimize the grass lawn in your yard, because less grass means water shed. Well, okay, develop habit of monitoring the water meters. Don't overwater your lawns. Don't wash floor with a hose. Use broom, or the best thing that we can use sprinkler irrigation for the irrigation purpose, or also it can be used in the gardens as well as. Well, then if we discuss about the industrial conservation, then industrial conservation can be done by installing the wastewater treatment plant in the factory for treating wastewater. Okay. Now also we can do the reuse of cooling water for the gardening. Then also use cooling system which require less water. Okay. Then we can also develop a new plant process which requires the less water. Use such equipments which require less water. Also, don't use water for washing driveways, washing trucks, etc. Okay, because there are more water used for this cleaning purpose, or for the washing the driveway purpose. Okay, with that also we should check the efficiency of water equipments on the regular basis, so that if there is a more wastage, or if there is need of any calibration that we can do. The last measures, that is the agricultural conservation. Well, improved method of irrigation like drip irrigation or the sprinkler irrigation, that must be adopted. Then conventional flooding method of irrigation, that should be discouraged. Then water meter should be installed. We should avoid the excess use of irrigation. We should also reduce the losses from the canal, creating awareness among the farmers about the importance of the water. Also advise proper irrigation schedule, that is depending upon the type of soil, the type of crop, and the weather conditions. So by doing these steps, we can conserve the large amount of water. Okay. I hope students you understand all these topics thoroughly. Thank you so much for your kind attention. I will see you in the next lecture.